We'll be really excited to hear from all of you today. Anyone who wants to jump into the conversation in the chat for now, and then later in the Q&A. So hello, welcome everybody from wherever you are. I know people are still signing in, so we'll give it a couple minutes. Welcome to all of our people in Europe and beyond. I know it's afternoon there and it's morning and midday in the US. So we're just grateful to have you all here for this conversation about peace with uncertainty. And this group of people, the faces may change sometimes, but this group of people is what I call the Seventh Awakening Circle. Basically a conversation, classic French salon, if you are familiar with history and discussion of philosophy. And our conversation is around what I call the Seventh Awakening. So in my work, I have a process called the Seven Awakenings from Fear to Freedom, which helps people transition in real time in their daily life from all the underlying fears that create chaos in our lives and transition out of those fears into a stable place. And jumping ahead, I've cheated just a little and dashed through the first 6 awakenings. This particular conversation, this circle, is the Seventh Awakening, which is what we traditionally discuss as spirituality. But in this room, we're discussing it from a much bigger picture because all of us have the other in us. And we'll talk about that more in a few minutes. What is that? What is the observer of our mind, of our emotions, that we can observe ourselves? What is that, either higher power or inner wisdom, and how can we tap into that in our life? So thank you again all for being here, for joining. Happy to see each of you. Welcome Joan. Welcome back, Michael. So happy to see you. And so we are live streaming. So some of you that aren't in the room today may be watching us on a variety of platforms. That includes Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, YouTube, and I know there's another one. Oh, X. So we are live streaming. So welcome to all of you on the live stream. If you would like to join this actual room where you can participate in this live chat, which is where most of the chat will take place, you can go to my website, annescotland.com, and log in and join this room where we are now. So that's annescotland.com, ANNESCOTTLIN, if you are listening only. And you can sign into this Zoom room here if you'd like to be part of our active room and our interactive chat. And there will be a live Q&A at the end, which will also be really nice for you to stay if you can. So I've basically introduced myself as a transition coach, a life transition coach, both in business and spirituality. I think there's a cross for both places. We are complex beings. Nothing fits in compartments. We do intersect. And so we're going to talk more about that today. And I want to allow each of my guests to introduce themselves as well. So Amit, will you start us off?
Sure, and it's a pleasure to be here. And thanks for this invitation. It's a brilliant conversation that took place the last time, and I'm really looking forward to the topic as well. It's such a relevant idea today. And if I was to introduce myself, I'm a trained deep transformational life coach. After 25 years of business career, I trained to become a coach, and now for the last 10 years, I've done deep work in transformational coaching. My work passionately remains spiritual, so I help spiritually ambitious people actually work on the topics that I myself have dived deeper into. which is around healing, doubt, acquiring inner mastery for a fulfilling life, for a spiritually ambitious life. And so it's actually about transforming ourselves, transforming our lives to reclaim aliveness and to create thriving, purposeful careers. That's what I work upon.
Amazing. Thank you so much for sharing that. That was very beautiful. And Ben, so happy to see you here today. And as you may have guessed, Amit is from originally India. Ben is joining us live from the UK right now. So Ben, yes, tell us a little bit in brief about your journey and what brings you here today.
Thank you, Anne. I was just saying before we went live, thank you for facilitating this with you, with Amit, with Freya, with everybody. It's such an honor and it's so exciting. So thank you. I've got on my LinkedIn, just me as a job title. I mean, I'm not really one for labels anymore, and I don't know what I would define or call myself at the moment. The just me is also a wordplay. The me stands for moment, eternity. I guess the destination, the journey are one of the same, which is being present. So my previous life, old identity, was in business, and if I was summarizing it, I was externally abundant and internally poor. Had a catalyst for, I mean, again, what do the words even mean? For the awakening in 2018. And there really aren't any seatbelts in terms of this journey. So I was searching for a multitude of years with lots of different modalities and deep dives into various rabbit holes of truth without knowing what I was looking for. And it's a paradox because it is within. So I haven't done anything or shared anything publicly. I have a coming soon for the organization which I founded called Limitless. And I'm currently mapping this process inside out. And I guess to summarize, when hope evaporates, what still stands through the fire of transformation? I know we spoke about it on the last one. I feel when it's ready, as in it's flowing through me, as opposed to old identity would perform. When it's ready, I'll share. But it will be simple enough for a child and an expert to understand at the same time. So I'm currently mapping the process internally and applying it each day. And it is simple. So
that's beautiful.
Oh, go on.
No, thank you so much. That's really beautiful. And yeah, so we'll stay tuned as time goes by to find out more about that. But I think what brings us together, all of us, is coming from the business world as well as the emotional wellness or personal development world. And each of us in different ways, finding how important spirituality is to our life and to our overall well-being. Without necessarily having to use the trappings of religion, but also including those. Because all of us as human beings, if we drop all the labels, we all have what we look in at and call, our spiritual self, spiritual being, the spirit, soul, whatever that is to you. And because of that, we all experience it and practice it differently. So I'd like to start with just a simple question as we launch into this conversation about finding peace without certainty. First of all, the spiritual element itself. How do we describe that? Let's say, especially to someone who considers themselves non-religious, how do you describe the observer? So who is it when I observe my own thoughts? Who is that? When I observe my own emotions, what is that? When I seek my inner wisdom, what is that? So jump in at any time and let's chat about that a little more. And also, sorry, before I let that question go, everyone is welcome to jump in the chat here, the written chat at any time, add your comments and questions. I'd love to see that as well as we go. So yeah, what is that? What is the observer? What is this thing that we try to describe as the spiritual self?
Go ahead, Ben. Would you like to go first?
After you, Amit. I'm happy to, but after you, sir.
I think certainty or uncertainty as is present presently. The first route inwards is to ponder over the context of external life, the financial context, the business context, the relational context, the interpersonal context, the life itself out here, as uncertain as it seems, uh, is not a firm ground for us to stand upon when we are looking for reassurance and peace. And for that, we must turn inwards, as we can discover quite simply that the certainty that we seek cannot be held hostage by the circumstances, because the circumstances do not appear to be headed in the right direction, for one. And the second thing is that uncertainty is forever going to be there out there. As soon as we begin to feel that it's okay and it's going to be okay, the proverbial rug is pulled from under our feet. So we must discover another firm and more reliable ground for certainty. And that must be found inwards, somewhere inside, to begin with, the journey to search for what that ground is. And as we begin that search, the way that we are headed, the route that we are taking towards going in, could be a very simple first step of simply slowing down, becoming a little bit more deliberate, becoming a little bit more appreciative, and just allowing a little bit less stress and allowing a little spaciousness to our own hearts, so that it's able to exhale the stress away a little bit. And that generates a certain kind of settling down within ourselves, a certain grounding within ourselves. And what we are grounding into, the clarity, the certainty, the conviction, is towards our core self, our truest self. And the more we begin to honor this truest self, the core heart, the closer we are to our own truth. If I was to keep the jargon away and the practices out for now, the route that we are taking is towards our own selves, and the way to measure whether we are headed in the right direction is, how does the heart feel? How does it really feel? Is it feeling more open, more relaxed? Are you feeling more generous to yourself? And you're feeling that it'll work out. It always does. If you're beginning to feel that, then you're getting closer to yourself. And that's the core self.
And I think maybe that sometimes we don't feel like it always works out. And I think that's one of the times where it's hard to kind of rest in that calm, particularly if it's not something that's an active part of your life already. If you have a spiritual experience, or you do practice a religious passion, or if you meditate, and maybe you have found a degree of that peace, satisfaction within. But when life is so chaotic, and we could list 20 things right now that throw us into immediate chaos, how do we know what it is we're looking for when we're looking within? How do we know that we can trust it? Ben, any thoughts on that?
I think what resonates, I'm just a fellow being walking this amazing, crazy path in these amazing, crazy times that we're in. On a macro scale, the external looks dysregulated, and internally, a sympathetic nervous system, fight, flight, freeze at the present moment. So when you're talking around the observer effect, I would say, my previous life and identity wasn't being present. That wouldn't have resonated. What are you talking about, Ben? But I know from my experience, constant loops of thoughts, and they weren't positive, as well as emotions, which I was very good at suppressing. until my nervous system was fried and I really couldn't do anything. I had to get to collapse, which seems like a metaphor for the journey over however many years. So it's moving from a sympathetic state to a parasympathetic state. And again, I'm not one for words in terms of this, because it's conceptual, and I'm having the human experience whilst having this conversation.
Why don't you, could you jump in and describe those two phrases, just in case anyone is unfamiliar with those? A definition for sympathetic and parasympathetic, just so we're really clear.
It's a dysregulated nervous system equals not being present, equals survival, equals fear, equals emotions, equals lower thought loops. So the path, dissolution of the old identity.
Excellent. I think he might have frozen there for a moment, but we'll wait for you to come back.
And it's somatic as I feel it. Still here?
Yes.
Okay. So as I feel it, but again, tell you what resonates. It's somatic in terms of this work. It's in the body. So when people have previously said, get in the heart, Ben, how do I do it? So when you were asking about sharing about the observer effect, it's okay, I'm feeling sad or angry. Drop into the body, and where's the sensation? Drop the storyline. Where's the sensation? Where's it tight? Where's it hot? And that's completing the energetic charge, energy, emotion. And the thought loops are a bit like smoke, and the emotions I would equate to fire. So it's going directly to the root cause, which is completing the emotion, the energetic charge, which was never completed. So it's all state-based. So when people talk around inner child healing and experiences from the past, that's playing out in the nervous system as a state of fight, flight, freeze. So that's as I feel it. But again, what do I know? Take what resonates with that. But the awakening, the ascension, it's moving from the head, the thought loops, into the body, which is presence. And it is internal, because we'd be giving our power away to somebody, some process that's external, which is why it is for free. And it's a journey, I feel, of less stimulation, less noise, of coming back to ourselves, our inner sovereignty of nobody else can get me out of my thought loops or the emotional reactions other than myself. So I guess that's the path in terms of where I'm, in terms of a simple orientation of what's the process and what are the protocols for being present. Yes,
thank you so much for that. And yeah, and the thought loops, thought looping is definitely keeps us out of the present. What generally it's based in a sense of fear about the past, or consequences, or fear of the future, or worrying about things we've done and said in the past or didn't do. And those things can go round and round. It's like constantly trying to solve a problem, for those of you who know what that feels like. And it can almost be bound to a physiology as well. Because I know there were times where I couldn't break the thought looping habits when I was going through something very difficult. And I would stand in the shower and I would just get stuck in these loops over and over and over, trying to solve a problem or figure out what had gone wrong or what had happened. And I was in a deep state of depression at the time as well, years ago. And I just physically couldn't stop. I couldn't even get out of the shower. And the only thing that would ever get me out is the hot water would go out and it would get cold. And then I would finally get out. But it took a physical disruption to break me out of that. So it just shows how strong those patterns can be. And also for another day, we're going to cover more on, what physical techniques we can use to kind of break us out of those patterns as well. So not being present is the challenge. How do we find the peace even when we don't have certainty? Because sometimes I am very present and I'm still not very peaceful. Just jump in, somebody.
Um, the conversation connects again with the original question that you began with, this authentic self or the core self. When I was going through one of these deep churns, I was out of career. I got fired from a job, even though I got the next job very quickly, but I was now left very disillusioned with myself that what did I accomplish if I haven't created a reliable career yet? So one was that the relationships were going through a major, unbelievable amount of rocky patch, as if everything in life was uncertain. That is the experience of my, and this machinery was overheated. I mean, it would go on and on and on. I wake up overwhelmed, and throughout the day there was great amount of fear. What am I going to do? A lot of action. Let me try this, but no movement. A lot of stuck. Experience of being stuck there. The only thing that I found relief in was to sit down and to experience. In the Indian spirituality, it is called the five koshas. I am not my mind. I'm not this body. I am not the feelings that I'm having right now. I am not this right and wrong which is going on in my body right now. I am somebody who's on the inside and who is just stepping into this turmoil. I don't have to invest into it as myself, and I can step out of it for relief. That was how this journey began for me, to discover that I don't have to get caught in the worldly experience of everything which comes and overwhelms us all at once. So it's about permitting ourselves the really grounded experience that I am really not my body. If I lose my hand, I do not think I am reduced to 20% less than who I used to be. And if I'm having this feeling right now, I can shift from this feeling to this feeling. So I am not my feelings. I'm not my thoughts, because I'm able to change my thought. I'm thinking about food just now and relationship the next. So who am I? So now, rather than worrying about this question, it was good enough just for now to drop. I'm not my thoughts. I'm not my feelings. I can just allow sensations to be felt. And then even allow the sensations to be dropped, that that's not me. And discover that island of great relief and sanctuary of I-ness, wherein there is no thought which is compulsively necessary. And that is what generates the first relief for me. And
Wow, that's really good. And I'm just dropping that into the chat so we can remember, I am not my thoughts, I am not my feelings, as a really practical way to start the process of discovery that will probably take time. But by first understanding that when I feel horrible emotionally, that's not who I am. When my thoughts are persecuting me over something, and criticizing me, that is not who I am. So stepping away from that, separating those, will help us begin to create a state of identity that we might not have been familiar with before. So even if you don't have a label for that, if you're experimenting with it, or it gives you that moment to step back and say, I'm okay. I'm not going to figure out who I am right now, but I just want to know that I am okay. I am not my thoughts. I am not my feelings. I am here. I am present. And in this moment, I am okay. And I love what Michael said. It's not who you are, but your thinking that's causing that chemical rush that made you feel that way. So yes, so true how our emotions, our thoughts are what inform our emotions, which is why I love so much. I'm not my thoughts and I'm not my feelings either. So yeah, I think this is a great step into finding a place to create calm, an active and practical step.
But it doesn't end there. I mean, there must be some mastery about building something reliable thereafter. This is like as if the first relief. There are this is where the work begins, or it's only the preparation of the overwhelm to be put down before one begins working on oneself. There must be some acquisition of resources or clarity or the action which has to begin with this. That is about self-mastery. It's about personal mastery. It's about how does one deal with life. So that's the second step.
Ben, anything to add?
Yeah, I love you both. It's so fascinating without giving it a label. As I was sharing before, this is a sweeping generalization, and I obviously haven't straw polled the world, but how do we find ourselves internally and externally where we are? Dysregulated systems produce dysregulated structures. And that would be a sweeping so within, so without points in terms of where humanity are at. So how do I regulate my nervous system? And I guess that would be the foundation. And I know it's the foundation because I'm doing it and it works. So I'm not on my phone in the morning. I go for a walk. I consciously breathe. And this is the nervous system again, the vagus nerve. So nose breathing, in and out through the nose. Being outside, grounding, lying on the floor if I'm feeling, okay, this is heavy, this is a wave of emotions. I don't need to solve everything, just regulate. And then that's kind of the baseline of where's my state at? Am I in like full fear mode, like perpetual thought loops? I'm in trigger central, regulate. That's it, regulate. And then from regulation to integration, which has been touched on in terms of, okay, I have awareness that I'm feeling sadness or anger and emotion. What do I do with it? Drop the story, Ben. Drop into the body. Where's the sensation? Breathe. And it could be 1 wave, 2 wave, 3 wave. And it dissipates, again, completing the energetic charge. And the thought loops, again, it's really interesting when I'm in the car because I can't go anywhere. And that's interesting in terms of just a barometer of where am I at? And they do come in and it's just, okay, they're not real. So drop the story, dissolve, drop into the body. Is there a sensation, an energetic charge to complete? Yes. Okay, breathe. No, there isn't. Okay, just orientate myself into the now. And that's it. It's a rinse, repeat. It's simple, but again, as Amit was saying, it sounds like a belief system, and the whole point is not having any belief systems. But it is being present. I don't know what that truly feels like, but energy can't be created or destroyed, and the human condition is fight, flight, freeze, past, future. And if energy can't be created or destroyed, just transformed, transferred, all that energy that humanity have been using to live in the past, the future, has to be expressed. So that'd be the work in terms of the path of self-mastery, which is presence of, well, what we're moving into, survival operating system into creator operating system. And I don't know what that feels like or looks like. And there's no bypassing or buying my way through that process, which is funny because I say that with a smiley face. Yeah, I could be the richest person on the planet. I couldn't buy my way through that process. It's an internal process and it can't be faked. And I guess one will know when one's through, which is I've never felt the flow of forming within those societal masks and expectations and just having those as false identities. And I guess that's what this process has been in terms of that's the old identity and dissolution of everything that wasn't true. And again, it's kind of words with this. It's a state. And Bashar Danyalenko said, circumstances don't matter, only state of being matters. And that line resonated with me, that it's state-based. And I'm sure people will be speaking a lot more about the nervous system, because we're not, as I feel it, going anywhere. It's a physical ascension, awakening. What does that mean? It's in the body, and we're here to co-create a new Earth. What does that mean? Well, it's state-based. If we were loving and kind to ourselves, i.e. present, and lots of other beings were, that's how we bring in the new Earth, which is a state, which is what works for me and everybody else. So I've moved out of survival, of lack, of taking, of judgment, to service. And again, I don't know what I'm talking about. It's conceptual for me at the moment, and that's just from my heart to your heart. I'm still walking this path. I don't feel it will stop, but you know, my heart's in the right place with what I'm sharing.
It's beautiful, and you're actually saying exactly what we're talking about, and what we had said to everyone that we would share today in many ways, which was how each of us find peace without certainty. And so you exploring finding your true identity is a big part of that. Having techniques that get your physiology grounded is a big part of that. Understanding that we're part of a greater whole is hugely comforting. And I love that you use the word faith, because it is a matter of faith. I think this would be a great word for a whole day, is what is faith exactly? And in different ways, all of us are practicing faith on a daily basis. But in what way? Is it just the laws of nature? Is it spiritual? And if it is spiritual, in what ways? So many things to say here. I'm going to jump in here and mention one of Ayumi. Thank you for the comment. She said, perhaps we're not always meant to know what's next. And Michael also started us out with this in the comments earlier. And right now, it's one of that time we're facing collectively. Emotionally, it's really tough, but we just accept it's one of these times. And then there's that word again, and have faith that great things are happening where we cannot see. I love that so much, to understand that great things are happening where we cannot see. That is a beautiful definition of faith, actually. I really love that, because whether it's in something greater and universal or divine, or for if it's just knowing that the world has millions, if not, more good-hearted people in it that are doing good things and helping and healing and producing and not destroying, that's amazing. Knowing that good things are happening even outside, because it's so hard for us to break out of our experiential shell, right? It's like, I'm in this room in my office, I'm right here right now, and if this is going wrong or that is going wrong, or something in my computer is going wrong, which how real is that? But and communications, or the internet isn't working, or all these many things, we're so programmed to believe that what we're experiencing is all the truth there is right now. Which is also why when we talk about forbidden topics like politics, forbidden in this room, we can get all worked up, physically, emotionally, intellectually, get completely worked up. But if the house starts burning, we're not thinking about politics anymore, because we're instantly able to pivot, which is also, I think, a really important principle for understanding the nervous system and the separations, that I'm not my thoughts, I'm not my feelings, that we actually have the ability already to pivot and change our positions rapidly based on awareness. The fire in a house creates instant awareness, does it not? You can't get more present, right? So suddenly these huge global topics that have so disrupted our day, we forget they even exist. Well, all that says is that we can do this as well. We can do this in our own space and time. We can create that shift and make it an intentional shift to a positive state of presence, instead of a negative environment of presence. And before we continue, I just briefly want to jump in because some of you are watching on our live stream. In fact, probably most of you are watching on our live stream on a variety of platforms today. If you want to jump into the Zoom call and be part of it here and participate in the chat and later in the Q&A, we would love that. All you have to do is go to my website, annescotland.com, and you can get your login link there. And that's spelled ANNESCOTTLIN, annescotland.com. Feel free to jump in there. And yeah, so continuing on with this thought, the idea that jump to Michael first. When you breathe with intent, you do not produce emotion. You can either think or breathe. Oh, yes, that's true. You can't breathe with intent and do both. So, and some of you have practiced, the opposite nostril breathing, right? When you have to focus, it's much harder to think about other things simultaneously. That's for sure. But finding peace without certainty, clearly what we've chatted about so far is grounding the body in present space. Grounding the awareness in present space beyond the body. And awareness, you can decide whether that's just mental or emotional. But even if we're not paying any attention to the body, we still have awareness. So we can get the body present. That's one step. We can create emotional awareness, intellectual awareness. And that's another part of shifting gears into a space of peace. And I think when I talk about emotional and intellectual awareness, I'm really saying I can have a pain in my foot that's really throbbing, but I can also forget about that, just like about the disruptive discussion on politics, right? When my mind is focusing on problem solving or something else, you forget about the foot. So even when the body, you can be present in the body, sometimes it's very painful because you do see and feel all. That's a whole nother level, right? But for the mind, the soul, where do we go with that? And I see, Amit, you taking some notes. Is there something you'd like to share?
I was just in love with what Ben was saying, and he co-creates this. As he talks about it, you find yourself coming into the realm that Ben is talking from, this realm of the heart. I think there are 4 steps when we are attending to this feeling of uncertainty and seeking peace. And the first of it is about attending to the overwhelm, a little bit of sensations, attending to what's going on for me, healing a little bit, because that's real. So the first step is attending and then dropping maybe whatever is going on, dropping into the sensations. The second step feels like the need to ground myself because everything is rocky, so, and grounding is not just this ephemeral idea, which is confusing or voodoo. It's actually about letting myself fall closer to the ground, as Ben said. And, and another way to say it is drop into the body and ground yourself into realism, into what's here and now, because the mind is really overwhelmed. What's here and now, it's just trees, it's just grass, it's just sitting on the ground for a little bit, letting things slip away just for now, creating a little bit of settling down within myself, grounding. That's the second step. And the third is also an intellectually important step, which is about generating some amount of clarity, decluttering, this idea of creating some light from the fog. And it's about this transformation, this idea of who I'm called to be, who is the real version of me, which is the version that wants to step forward as boldly as the newer me. That's transformation. So this is actually about the third step, which is about generating clarity, decluttering. The fourth step is action with conviction. Now I begin to honor the one that I have discovered, that this is who I'm called to be. I think this is the framework which, when one is working on this in this uncertainty, if we skip any of these steps, then it doesn't work. There has to be a certain amount of healing, some amount of attending, some amount of dropping the overwhelming emotions. There has to be grounding, because without grounding, everything is too rocky. I cannot progress. There cannot be any discovery. The third step is discovery and raising awareness of the new framework. And the fourth step is about action, which is also about a certain kind of action. It's not just, okay, let's go and now start applying for jobs. It's actually a what would honor me, the core me, what is the new discovery that I have made, what would honor my heart. So working for a career which is purposeful to me, which aligns perfectly with me, which I'm not misaligned within myself, spiritually aligned with faith. And if I was to add a fifth step as I go along, it is about trust and faith, as you said, that magical word that I'm taken care of. The universe has me, God has me. I feel this is what comes to me as a framework.
I really love that. That's so beautiful. Dropping into the sensations, one, as Amit just mentioned, and I think, and by that you mean pleasant or unpleasant, right?
Indeed.
Right. And then grounding yourself, dropping into the physical body, generate clarity. So decluttering the mind, again, getting present as part of that grounding experience. Asking who is the real me, which I love when we said earlier, I am not my thoughts, I am not my emotions. And what we discussed, who is the observer, who is the real me, and understanding that thinking from that space, thinking from the real me, the authentic self, that's what the transformation is. It's liberating ourselves, even for a few moments, from the body, from the mind, from the emotions, and going into that peaceful space where we exist untroubled. I guess that's the only way I could explain it. So I guess that's our existence in an untroubled way is where we find that's peace, even when amidst uncertainty. And then knowing that we can take action and have faith and trust that that always stays there, because it always does. Whether you're in physical turmoil, emotional turmoil, intellectual suffering, lots of us have gone through very painful years of deconstruction from other ways of thinking that create incredible intellectual suffering as well. Yeah.
I think, and one more thing, as I'm relating to these topics, and I'm talking about to myself about uncertainty, one of the things comes is that all five have to happen with feet firmly on the ground in realism. It must not become disconnected from my reality. For example, this first idea about healing, attending to emotions, dropping into the sensation, it's very real, grounded work. It's about work on what's going on for me and attending to the emotions separate from the story that I live into. It's real work. I mean, it's real. It should be handled not just in the thinking, cloudy, romantic, or ephemeral word, which is not clear to me. The topic as well, the grounding, has to be extremely clear as of real world work. And raising awareness too about who I am called to be. Now, this idea, I'm not just concerned about the true self as an abstract idea of me beyond the thoughts. I'm also concerned with what are my strengths? What is my purpose? What's my calling? What are my natural gifts? What is my history trying to teach me? What are my patterns that I must learn to look through and drop some and discover something new that's calling to me as a new kind of future. So this is also grounded work. You know what I mean? And the rest of the journey as well. I don't want to repeat myself, but the idea is that everything must happen in the world of realism. Must not disconnect from the ground of reality.
Ben, anything to add?
Again, beautiful shares. Thank you. I'm trying to make this practical, and I'm always speaking to me anyway in terms of what works. And again, I feel all of the shares. I was in fantasy before, and that's a whole rabbit hole of spiritual fantasy. Somebody's coming in to save us, blah blah. when this happens, then giving my power away to something in the future. And it's like, no, that would be giving our power away, because the power's within, we're all equals. Nobody's coming in to do this for us. So yeah, regulation. I mean, that's free, you know, and it's simple. And it's so simple that it could be overlooked in terms of its simplicity, but that's the whole point. And I didn't want to sit with my own stuff. I mean, who does? It's like, you know, the phone's a brilliant distraction, dopamine hit. So's a phone call with a friend or whoever. So's YouTube, so's television. So, and this goes on in terms of I'm not being present because, do you know what? I'm happy to be distracted from my own internal BS because I don't want to hear it. I don't want to feel it. And I don't know how to get out of it. So it's micro actions and they work, because does it matter about the external? I totally get it. This would be an easy conversation if we all sat in a monastery for the next 10 years, just breathing, but everybody's living life. And it's not easy. You know, it's like, whatever's happening, can I stay regulated and coherent? And again, I don't know what embodiment is. My feeling is that's the default nervous system operating system. Present moment consciousness. I earn the prize with this, everybody, just speaking to me, which is it flows. So for me, it's regulation, regulating the nervous system, and it's simple, simple, simple. Less is more. So reducing external stimulants, breath, and then going on to integration, which emotions for same, drop into the body, feel the sensation, no storyline, completely energetic charge, rinse, repeat. It might sound boringly simple, but that be the process. No thought loops, no, am I doing it right? Everything's energy, we're just completely energetic charge. And micro actions. So not in 10 years, when it looks like this, that's how I'm showing up. If state creates, which it does, nervous system state, what micro actions am I doing now, regardless of whatever's happening? So daily walks, for example, of, like I was saying before, it's simple. Hot water with some salt. I mean, this is just the protocols that I'm using. Walks, breath. Okay, I'm not feeling completely present. What's my nervous system asking for? You know, there's a craving, there's some kind of external stimulation, and it's simple stuff like lie on the floor, Ben, put your hand over your sacral and your heart. You are safe to feel what's coming up. You don't need an external crutch. You are safe to feel. Rinse, repeat, rinse, repeat. It's not me trusting the body. It's the other way around with this. It's all a paradox, and it is all inverted in terms of, you know, what's been taught, told, and shared. Is like flip that. It's childlike simplicity in terms of this path, but therein lies it's boringly simple. And I feel that's the point. And again, I mean, this is just where I'm at in terms of this process of, and I'm not best friends with boredom yet, but that energy has to go somewhere. But it is reducing external stimulus, so I can sit with it. And that's kind of the phase I'm at in terms of, I guess, integration phase with all of this. So micro actions of how would I show up when I've got my dream life and everything else? Well, what's the difference with that today with whatever practical steps I can take? So yeah,
I love that.
that's how state creates in terms of this. It's not thinking, it's my vibrational frequency, which is the nervous system state. So
Wow, and I love what you said. It's not trusting the body, and what that said to me was, it's the body learning to trust you. Because the nervous system's reaction against the emotions, against the thinking, against the perceived threats, it's the nervous system's reaction that is in that fight or flight or freeze mode, because it doesn't trust you. You're like, all I have is my nervous system, my emotions, and my thoughts. And I don't feel like I can trust any of those three right now. And we've forgotten about the self, what we're talking about today, the stepping aside, the observer, the soul, having that sense of peace and groundedness, and learning from all these techniques that both of you are discussing now, stepping into that space That's a safe space. That's where the body can learn to trust you. Our emotions can learn to trust us, right? Even the mind can learn to trust the observer, because it's grounded and never leaving. It's never abandoning. It's not abusive. The mind is very abusive, right? Emotions can be very abusive. The body can suffer. But stepping into that higher self, as we're sort of defining it today, gives us a sense of freedom.
May I add to that, Anne? There's a number of people, you know, it's interesting. Who cares in terms of the share? But I've deep dived in terms of a lot of people to look at what's commonality and what with you know, the path, why we're here, the spiritual frame, etc. Wayne Dyer resonated. You know, he coined ego, edging God out, and edging God's self out. I'd add in the self, but what does that mean? You know, I thought ego was arrogance previously. And again, what do I know? But how did humanity not be present? You know, why is this the norm in terms of survival, in terms of fight, flight, freeze, fear? Why is that our default operating system as a species? Because it certainly isn't heaven on earth, upliftment for all, we're all equals currently. I mean, that's why we're here, I believe. What's the root cause in terms of that? And it's, I mean, whatever anybody's belief in terms of this, but it is, again, it's a sympathetic fight, flight, freeze nervous system at the present moment. So the term ego does resonate in terms of ego, programmed mind, conditioning, belief systems, you know, thought loops, emotions, kind of all the same and all saying the same thing, which is I'm not being present. I'm literally running on autopilot with either stuff that I'm aware of or not aware of, and that's just my baseline normal. And that certainly was my experience for many, well, basically the whole of my life in terms of that. It was, I hadn't awareness of them. That was just my baseline. This is just normal to have these thought loops on rinse, repeat, to feel anxious, anxiety, to feel stress, and. It was just, well, isn't that how life's supposed to be? And it's like, it's really not. And I've just had glimpses in terms of just feeling neutral, no massive highs or lows, but this work, it does work. And it's like after hope disappears, what does survive? You know, because there's no point building on an old foundation that's going to crumble again. What's true and what's real? And it is truly within, and it is a regulated nervous system in terms of that be the work. And again, just from my own experience, it's just glimpses at the moment. It's nice. I'm grateful to feel neutral. Like whatever's happening, it's like, do you know what? It's my choice now. I can still show up now. And I've got these tools, which are inner tools, which I can use and having awareness of, and they work. And it is so simple. It's like if you were speaking to a CEO, they'd be like, okay, but it's simple. And applying this both individually and at a company level, because I know this gets streamed on LinkedIn, Anne, you know, it's like, I don't know, but a regulated nervous system would be a lot more productive on all levels than a dysregulated one. You know, scale that out, you know, that's alpha for a company in terms of less overseeing management needed, more collaboration, less absenteeism, less sickness through I've burnt myself out as a high performer, more passion, more purpose, more presence. It really would be a game changer, both for individuals and also from a company perspective in terms of this approach. So
No, that's really, really good. And Ahmed, I'd love you to comment on that. But before we do, I just want to remind everyone, At the end of this call, in a few minutes, we're going to have a Q&A. If you'd like to be part of that, you'll need to jump on this Zoom room space with us. You can get your link to this room at annescotland.com. And if you'd like to join us, you have a few more minutes to jump in and stick around. The Q&A will not stream. If you want to be part of it, you do have to sign into the Zoom room. So thank you again, Ben. That was exceptionally powerful. And Amit, do you have any thoughts on Ben's comments?
Ben is, as usual, he's talking from where he already has found, generated for himself. He's generated this solid ground of being, where, and it's come with tremendous amount of self-work and regulation, attunement with the universe, attunement with nature itself. And I can only say that this is the place that we are all headed, the place which is about the core truth of who we are. The intuitive center, which keeps calling to us, the consciousness that non-dualism in Indian spirituality, which talks to the idea of real self, which is verily divine, which is not just in connection with divine. It is the I, the real I, that keeps calling to us relentlessly that come home to yourself, come home to yourself. Ultimately, that is the goal. There is no relief unless we head home, unless we settle down at home. Meanwhile, it is only everything else that we do is about, okay, meanwhile, while we are still traveling. But there is no place to go except you're already here. Settle down within yourself. You're already home. Give up the strife, as we were talking the previous conversation, and settle down within yourself, and you'll find yourself already complete. So one aspect of this work is about appreciating the presence that's already here. And there is not much to heal. There's not much to deal with. But while we are working on this, the Western mind will not be okay with no money. There is still the healthcare to pay for. There is still something else to. So that brings up an agenda of, can you stay in that center and also stay in action? Can you find that center and still be vibrantly alive? And you don't go into a recluse's life, but you are actually fully engaged. You return to the society, having found yourself, just like Ben. You find yourself, and that self is now serving. So it's engaging, and it's helping others see what you have found. So the work continues. You continue to make money. You continue to actually engage. You continue to have relationships and give and take love and thrive. But you are standing on a different ground of being. Now you know who you are. There's no place to go. Money is never going to be enough. And even if it were in great abundance, it brings you no more joy than you see possible just now in the moment. And no other person can give you the love that you do not feel right here, right now in yourself, for yourself. So having realized this, you are in heaven first, and then you begin your journey. And you're fully self-realized here and now. You're fully complete and fulfilled here and now. And then you show up to life. Ben is inviting us to begin from here. And that's
you. Yes, absolutely. 100% agree. And so beautifully shared by both of you. And a perfect note for us to wrap up, but don't go away. If you'd like to join the Q&A, you still have like 1 or 2 minutes to sign into the Zoom room. If you like, go to the link. It's on annescotland.com. I want to thank everyone for being here today. The Q&A will be lovely. It won't be streaming, but you can join from the other link from the Zoom room. And we're going to take some of your questions and comments. Thank you to everyone who's been chatting with us here in the chat today. And Yes, so please stick around for the Q&A. Just saw 1 or 2 people signing in, so please do stick around for the Q&A right now. I am going to pop something in the chat here for you. If you would like to donate to help keep this Seventh Awakening Circle going, if you'd like to continue this conversation around peace without certainty, it takes more than you might think to stream this to many platforms and produce it, and have a producer here for us today. So if you would like to contribute, we would love that. We're planning to meet here again exactly in 2 weeks. That's Tuesday, February 17th, same time, same link, same place. So we hope you will join us there as well. And we're also seeking sponsors to help us defer the costs here. And this is not even for the time spent in preparation or our time here, but just the outside costs. So we're looking for a sponsor. Do we drop in? We're going to take about a 30 to 60 second break, but don't go away because we don't have an official sponsor. It's me today. So I'm going to drop in my slide. We just want to give our speakers like 60 seconds if there's any emergency break needed, and then we'll be right back for the Q&A. So if you'd like to stay, don't go away. We'll be right back.